Hey there, welcome to Little Garden on the Prairies. In today's video, we are going to be planting up some tomatoes today, and we're going to be running a little bit of a competition because I'm a diehard solo cup girl. I've been using this method for starting my tomatoes for several years, the single cup method, not the double cup method. But now I've kind of been interested in the seedling snail and wondering if it could replace the solo cup for starting my tomatoes. So in this video, we are going to be testing out two methods of starting tomatoes from seed, my solo cup and the new contender, the seedling snail. So let's get started. So first of all, let's talk about the solo cups and why I like this method and how it's been working great for me. First of all, I don't, really care to plant up a lot of seedlings in those larger, like 72 cell trays where I have to, pull them out and pot up. I like using the solo cup because it is a once and done method where I can plant the seed right in this cup, let it grow. It'll have lots of space here for its root development. And then I can just move them outdoors to harden them off and get them ready to plant into my garden. What I also like about the single cup method is the watering is a much easier way. I just do the bottom tray watering system. A lot of people do the 2-cup method where you put water in this one. There's no holes in the bottom. There's holes in this one. And you go around and, remove the cup and water. I find that a lot of work, especially when I got this slid in under my grow lights and I have to pull them all out to do that watering every day. I find just using my watering can, watering into the tray here and just letting the single cup wick up the water has been working great for me. So that's my method. So to set up a solo cup is super easy. I just cut little pieces off the bottom with some scissors so that you have good drainage. There's some airflow down there, and when the roots start to really develop at the end, they have somewhere to go if they're getting a little root bound in the cup. Another method that I use is just filling up the cups 2/3 of the way with seed starting mix. So I usually just plant 2 or 3 seeds in here, and if I get good germination and have to remove a couple of the seedlings, I do, but I always just keep one plant in one cup here. You'll notice on tomato stems that they have those little tiny hairs on there that will turn into roots if you cover them with soil. So this is why I just start them off in like a 2/3 cup full of the seed starting mix. I let them grow till they are above the rim of the cup and remove all those extra leaves around the stem and top it up with potting soil. So this has got some fertilizer and nutrients in it. And that way you get a really nice strong ball of roots, and it's going to get well fed with the potting soil. And I've had really good success with this method. I end up with really nice, strong tomato plants that go into the garden. So the only downfall really to this system is that they take up a lot more space. If you were starting a whole bunch of varieties, which I usually do, I usually have about 10 different or a dozen different tomatoes that I want to try growing. I got the Romas, cherries, beef steaks, and sometimes they're indeterminate and determinate. So, if you want to do a whole bunch of varieties, you can take up a lot of space, in a tray. So that's where the seed snails kind of caught my attention because, as you can see here, I can only get one tomato plant going in one solo cup, but I can hopefully grow several tomatoes in one of these snails and keep them in here all the way till the time that they are ready to be planted outdoors. The coils here in the snail kind of separate the roots so they're not competing for nutrients or getting entangled. You're using a lot less soil than you are doing it in individual cups. So that's kind of the advantage. Watering is super easy as well because the bottom is all open and there's dirt there, as you can see. So that's going to wick up the moisture really well. So that should work good. And as far as I know, from what I've learned on YouTube, these can live in here right until they're ready to go outdoors. And then you just open up the snail, pull your tomatoes apart and plant them in the ground. So we'll be able to get all the tomatoes that I want to get going all in one tray here, and I just happen to have room in front of my window here for another tray. So I'm going to get some of these planted up. I'll just show you how I'm doing one or two in the solo cups, and then we'll plant up some snails. So to start off, I've gone through all my cups here and written the name of the tomato that I'm going to be planting. I also identify whether it's a determinate or indeterminate. That's very good to know when it comes time to plant, to know that if it's a determinate, that it's not going to take up a lot of space. It's not going to need trellising, because it's only going to grow to a certain size. So, you know, you can plan accordingly when it comes time to putting them outdoors. Something like this Roma is a dwarf determinate, which means it's not going to get very big, so it's good for containers. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. Something like this purple cherry is an indeterminate variety, so that is going to need trellising. It's going to grow very tall. So that's something just to keep in mind when you are, you know, marking your cups, to identify what variety it is. Planting up is very simple. I'm just going to put 2 or 3 seeds in here, kind of spread them out. So we have hopefully germination success with at least one. And then when they get up to that, you know, into that 4-leaf stage, and it's time to wean them out, that's when I decide whether I'm going to pot them up somewhere else or just, you know, clip it out and throw it into the compost. So tomatoes don't need to go down too deep. As you can see, I've got this filled about 2/3 of the way with the seed starting mix. I'm just going to put a little bit more on top. Tomatoes are very quick to germinate, I find, compared to others. Anywhere from like 3 to 7 days, you will probably see germination in these. So basically, that's how I get these started. So I am just going to keep planting up 2 or 3 seeds in each of these cups, and then we'll move on to the snails. So for my seedling snails here, I'm just using some packing foam that I purchased a large roll of. It comes in 12 by 12 size squares that are perforated, so you can rip them apart easily. And, you know, a full-size snail like this, I used 2 pieces, so that would have been about 24 inches this way and 6 inches this way. And, you know, that makes a fairly good size snail. But what I was thinking with tomatoes, because I don't want to plant like, you know, 12 or a dozen of the same variety. And if you have, you know, a bunch of different varieties inside a snail, it's kind of hard to keep track of them. You could probably figure out some kind of marking system. But I just thought, because I'm going to be, you know, looking for more like 4 to 6 of one variety, that I'm going to just create what I call mini snails. And so they're just going to be the 6-inch height still, but they're only going to be 12 inches. So I'm just going to roll one up here for you so you can see how it looks, and then we can start putting some seeds in them. So I am using some potting soil that I have added some more vermiculite to, and a little bit worm castings, just because they're going to be living in here the whole time. Just to have some extra nutrients in here for them. And basically I'm just going to be spreading it out so that it's about 1 inch thick. And as mentioned, this is going to be pre-moistened. You want to have this super wet, because it helps with the rolling up of the snail as well. So just kind of spread it out, pack it down. I leave a little bit of an edge there at each end. Again, try to get it about 1 inch thick. A lot of it's going to ooze out the sides, but that's okay. And then before I roll it up, just give it another spritz with a spray bottle, or sprinkle with your watering can, just to make sure it's good and wet. And then we are ready to roll it up. So I'm just going to kind of pull it towards you. So usually some of the dirt oozes out the ends, which is okay. And before you start this, you want to make sure that you have something ready to secure it, like a piece of tape or string or rope, elastic band. I usually just ram some of that dirt in the bottom here, just pack it in. It'll kind of hold in place once you get your seedling set up. So I'm just using carpet tape or tuck tape here to seal my snails up. It seems to be working good, holding in place. Okay, so there we have just created a mini snails. You can see it doesn't have as many coils to it, but I think this is good because then, you know, I'm just going to plant up maybe six of one variety in here, and you know, that'll be enough for me. And then I'm just going to write on the tuck tape what the variety is, the name, and these pieces of foam can be used over and over every year, so they are definitely, you know, tough and should be able to use them over again. Okay, so I have 2 of my snails already here for planting. I got my super size, and then I got my mini snail here. So you just kind of decide how many plants do you want, and you know, kind of go from there, because like I say, you can get a lot in here. So if you are trying to keep track of a variety and you know, you want to just plant one in there, then you can put a whole bunch in there. I'm going to be doing Sweet Millions in here because I know I will be wanting a lot of those. They're great to put into containers, so they make a great gift for people that I like to give to when they're ready to go out into the garden. I like to, you know, pot some up in a nice container and just share it with friends. So basically, I guess I'll start in the middle here, the middle of the snail. I'm just going to spread them about 2 inches apart, and just kind of follow the coil here. Looks like I will probably be getting, you know, close to 10 or a dozen or so in here. Again, if they're too thick, you can thin them out. Because my package is almost empty, there's no point in hanging on to 2 or 3 seeds, so I'm just going to put them in here, and hopefully we get good germination. Now it's just a matter if you want to just press them in with a toothpick. I'm using a tent spike and you can get a little more of that seed starting mix and just sprinkle it on top. Again, these are going right into some potting soil, so it's a little bit heavier soil than you would normally use like in your solo cup. So I'm just putting a light layer of seed starting mix, so it's nice and light, easy for those seeds to germinate and pop through. And I usually cover with a little bit of vermiculite as well, just to give it, you know, a little extra protection, keep that moisture in, help with the damping off. Sprinkle that on top. And she's all planted up. I got the name written on here. I got it marked as a determinate tomato, so I know when it comes to planting. And in this little mini snail, I'm going to be doing some sunrise bumblebee cherries. These are indeterminate, and I think they're kind of like that sun gold cherry, which I really love. And these are going to be ones that require, you know, a trellising, because they're going to grow really high and keep going as long as they can. So again, I'm just going to spread it around the snail. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6. Oh, there's lots in there. So I'm going to do about 8 in here. And that should be good. Just push them down a little bit. Okay, so we got these all planted up now. They're properly marked. I've given them a bit of a spritz to get them going, to just keep them moist. And I've found these containers here that work good for kind of till you get germination, just to create that humidity dome. I found this clear plastic tub. I'm going to be taking these downstairs and setting them up on a heat seedling mat and have them under grow lights to start off with before bringing them upstairs and putting them into a sunny window. So if you don't have a container like this, for these, I'm just putting them in this Rubbermaid tub. I got a big, this is a freezer bag for turkeys. These make great covers if you need to create some kind of a humidity dome over a bunch of containers like I am here. These also work really great to cover tomato cages out in the garden if you're getting some late frosts and you need to kind of save some of your plants that are out in the garden. These turkey freezer bags are really handy to have out in your garden. So I'm just going to do that just to create that nice humidity dome. I got some clips here that I'll just keep that secured. So I'll just take you downstairs and we'll get these set up on a heat mat under some grow lights. Okay, so I have my tomatoes set up on seedling heat mats here downstairs in my basement. I'm keeping them covered with this plastic cover, this plastic bag, just to keep that humidity in until they germinate. And then I will take them off the heat mats and turn on the grow lights. For now, we don't need the grow lights on right now. They're just going to get nice and warm, and hopefully we'll see some germination within the next week.